Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That quiet voice inside you that keeps whispering that you were made for more than this, stop suppressing it. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He knows what you are about to remember, because what I am about to tell you is not new information. It is a verdict that was written over your life before you took your first breath, and the moment you receive it, everything shifts. It all ends today. The lack, the limitation, the lie that wealth was never meant for someone like you. But hear this closely, because this is the part that changes everything. It is not ending because of luck. It is ending because of what you have already done. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The universe did. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth. You are standing at a threshold between the life you have been tolerating and the life that was written for you before time began. Stay until the very last second, because in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the decree that cancels the poverty assignment that was placed over your bloodline. I am going to walk you through the exact moment this week where you unknowingly activated your financial breakthrough. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this season of lack shut permanently. Do not click away. Your future self, the wealthy, unbothered, fully expressed version of you, is begging you to stay. Because if you leave now, you leave before the verdict is read. And this verdict was written specifically for you. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere around your finances has not just been tight, it has been suffocating. Like a ceiling you keep pressing against but cannot break through. Maybe you sat down this week to look at your numbers and felt a wave of shame so heavy it was hard to breathe. Maybe you scrolled past someone else's success and felt something you did not want to name, not quite jealousy, but something closer to grief. Grief for the version of your life that was supposed to be here by now. Or maybe you woke up at 3:0 inches the morning this week, with your mind already running the calculations, already counting what was not there, already bracing for a week that felt like it was starting in defeat before it had even begun. You feel suspended between two worlds, one where lack is all you have ever known, and one you can almost touch, a life of abundance, freedom, and open doors that no man has to unlock for you. And in that suspended place, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. Listen to your thoughts right now. He is telling you that wealth is for other people. He is replaying that moment this week when an opportunity passed you by. That moment when you hesitated. That moment when you talked yourself out of it. That moment when you looked at your circumstances and chose to believe what you saw over what you were promised. The accuser is telling you that your financial breakthrough has been delayed because of your decisions. He is telling you that you have made too many wrong moves, wasted too many seasons, and that the window has closed. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Deuteronomy 8:18 says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant." Listen to that truth. He gives you the ability. It is already inside you. It was placed there by covenant, not by circumstance, not by your credit score, not by your family history. The ability to produce wealth is not something you have to earn. It is something you have to remember. The enemy is not fighting your future. He is fighting your memory. He knows that the moment you remember who you are, the moment you stop waiting for permission and start walking in what was already declared over your life, his assignment collapses. You are not poor with potential. You are wealthy with amnesia. The heaviness you feel is not the weight of failure. It is the weight of a blessing that has been waiting longer than it was supposed to. The pressure is not punishment. It is the build-up right before the release. It is the moment before the dam breaks. That moment this week when you almost gave up on the dream, when you almost deleted the plan, closed the tab, talked yourself out of the vision that was not weakness. That was the final test before the turn. You did not disqualify yourself. You positioned yourself. Wealth is not coming to you because you finally got it right. It is coming to you because it was always yours. It was written before you were formed. It was decreed before you had a name. You are not becoming rich. You are returning to what was always your birthright. And I need you to sit with that for a moment. Not the version of rich that gets thrown around on social media, not the cars, not the cash, not the highlight reel. I mean the kind of rich that was written into your design before you took your first breath. The kind that has nothing to do with what you've earned and everything to do with what you were created to carry. The kind that doesn't depreciate when the market shifts or disappear when the applause stops. The kind that lives in the marrow of who you are, in the gifts that surface even when you're exhausted, in the wisdom that rises even when you haven't studied, in the peace that holds you even when everything around you is falling. That is the richness I am speaking to right now, not the surface version, the sovereign version. The version that was sealed into your spirit before your parents named you, before your circumstances shaped you, before the world got its hands on your self-perception and began its quiet work of reduction. Because this is what most people never stop long enough to recognize, that the greatest poverty a person can experience is not the absence of money. It is the absence of awareness. It is moving through life without ever fully grasping what was placed inside you before time began. Proverbs 10:22 says it plainly, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." Not the striving, not the grinding, not the relentless performance. The blessing, his blessing, the one that was assigned to you before you earned a single thing, before you proved yourself worthy of a single moment of grace. That blessing is not coming down the road. It was released over you before you arrived. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper, because here's the thing no one tells you, and this is where most people stay stuck their entire lives. You were taught that wealth is something you pursue, something you chase, something you build from scratch with your own 2 hands if you're disciplined enough, smart enough, connected enough. And so you've been running, working, striving, grinding, all while carrying this quiet, persistent feeling that you're behind, that something is wrong with you, that the life you sense in your spirit somehow doesn't match the life in front of your eyes. And that gap, that excruciating distance between what you feel in your spirit and what you see with your eyes, has become the place where your faith is tested most severely. Because you can feel the fullness. You can sense the expanse of what was prepared for you. In your most honest, unguarded moments, in the space between sleep and waking, in the quiet after prayer, in the car when a certain song comes on and something rises in your chest that you can't fully explain, you know that you were made for more, not in an arrogant, entitled way, in a deep, cellular, God-breathed way. Your spirit recognizes its assignment even when your circumstances refuse to confirm it. And that dissonance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that you are awake. It is your design pressing against the limitations of your current container, asking to be released into something larger. But what if you were never supposed to chase it? What if the pursuit itself was the trap? Think about this carefully. Think about what chasing actually does to the body, to the spirit, to the inner landscape of a person. When you chase something, you are always positioned behind it. You are always one step removed. You are always in reaction to it, rather than in relationship with it. And that posture, the posture of the pursuer, is fundamentally incompatible with the posture of the heir. An heir does not chase the inheritance. An heir receives it. An heir walks into it. An heir operates from the assumption that what belongs to them is already secured, already signed, already waiting. The chase is what orphans do. The walking is what sons and daughters do. And the Father has been waiting for you to stop running long enough to remember whose child you actually are. Think about Abraham. God didn't tell him to go earn his blessing. He told him to leave where he was and go to a land he would show him. The wealth, the expansion, the legacy, it was already appointed. It was already prepared. Abraham's only job was to move toward what was already his. And notice the specificity of that call. God didn't give Abraham a map. He didn't hand him a 5-year plan or a financial strategy or a clear picture of the destination. He said, "Go, and I will show you." The instruction was not to figure it out. The instruction was to trust the voice and take the first step. The blessing was not contingent on Abraham's cleverness or his preparation or his perfect understanding of the path. It was contingent on his willingness to leave the familiar in the direction of the promised. The problem is, most people are still standing in the wrong land, wondering why the blessing hasn't arrived. They're waiting for abundance in a place they were never meant to stay. They are praying for rivers in a desert they were told to leave 2 seasons ago. And the hardest truth of all is this: sometimes the very thing you are so desperately asking God to fix is the very place He is calling you to leave. The blessing isn't coming to your current location. The blessing is waiting at your next one. And the question is not whether you believe in the blessing. The question is whether you trust the instruction enough to move. And this is the first thing that has to shift inside you. You have been operating from a posture of scarcity, not because you are scarce, but because you were taught to see yourself that way. Someone, maybe a parent, maybe a system, maybe a version of religion that was meant to keep you humble, but instead kept you small. Someone convinced you that wanting more was selfish, that money was the root of evil, that struggle was holy, and comfort was suspicious. And let's sit here for a moment, because this particular wound runs very deep in the souls of those who were raised in faith communities. You were handed scriptures about contentment and taught to read them as invitations to settle. You were shown the lives of suffering saints and taught to aspire to their patience without being told about the restoration that followed. You saw men and women of God who lived in lack and called it sacrifice, and you absorbed the unspoken message that to want abundance was somehow to want too much of the world and not enough of God. That the truly spiritual person holds loosely, asks for little, and expects nothing beyond survival. And so you learned to make your prayers small. You learned to shrink your requests at the throne room. You learned to add disclaimers to your desires, God, if it be your will, which was code for "I don't really believe I deserve this, but I'm asking anyway." And you believed it. And the belief became a pattern. And the pattern became a ceiling. And now you're bumping your head against that ceiling every single time you try to rise, not realizing the ceiling isn't outside you, it's inside you. It's made of inherited agreements you never consciously chose. These agreements are invisible contracts. You didn't sign them willingly. You absorbed them through years of watching and listening and interpreting the world through the lens of what the adults around you believed about money, about worth, about who gets to have what. You watched your mother work herself to exhaustion and never quite arrive. You watched your father's ambitions quietly die in the space between vision and provision. You heard the language, "We can't afford that. That's not for people like us. Who do you think you are?" And even if those words were never directed at you specifically, they were written into the atmosphere of your becoming. And what we absorb in formation becomes what we believe about ourselves in maturity. The ceiling is not your fault, but dismantling it is your responsibility. But here's where it goes deeper, because the agreement isn't just in your mind, it's in your identity. You don't just believe you should struggle, you've built a self around it. There's a part of you that feels more comfortable in the waiting than in the having, more familiar with the prayer for breakthrough than with the actual moment of breakthrough. And if you're honest, if you're really honest with yourself right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been in a loop, and the loop doesn't just repeat circumstances. It repeats the version of you that created those circumstances in the first place. This is one of the most confronting realities in the entire journey of spiritual growth, that we can become attached to our own limitation. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because the suffering has become known territory. The human psyche, as complex as it is, defaults to the familiar. And if your familiar has always been lack, then even when abundance presents itself, some part of your nervous system reads it as a threat. Something in you says this is wrong, this is too much, something bad is about to happen, and so you self-sabotage. You overspend what comes in. You minimize the opportunity before it can minimize you. You retreat to smaller thinking in bigger moments, not because you are broken, but because your inner world has not yet been updated to match the outer assignment. This is what Elijah couldn't see when he ran into the wilderness and begged God to let him die. He had just called down fire from heaven. He had just witnessed one of the most supernatural demonstrations of divine power in all of Scripture. He had stood on Mount Carmel and watched 450 prophets of Baal be utterly silenced by the God he served. The rain had come, the drought had broken, the impossible had happened in front of his eyes and through his hands. And within days, he was hiding under a juniper tree, convinced it was over. Why? Because his identity hadn't caught up with his anointing. His inner world was still living in lack while his outer world had just experienced overflow. The contrast was too much. The exposure was too great. He had stepped into a territory so vast that his old self could not hold it, and rather than expand, he collapsed. And God didn't rebuke him. God didn't lecture him. God fed him. An angel touched him and said, "Arise and eat," because the Most High understood something we often miss. You cannot receive what you aren't resourced to carry. You cannot sustain what your inner life hasn't been prepared to hold. Elijah needed to be restored from the inside before he could step into what was next. And what was next, as it turned out, was not the end. It was the double anointing. It was the appointment of Elisha. It was the chariot of fire, and the translation that would become one of the most breathtaking exits in all of human history. But none of that was accessible to a man who was running on empty under a tree begging to die. The restoration had to come first. And I need you to hear this for yourself. The season you are in right now may feel like hiding. It may feel like collapse. It may feel like the fire you called down has already been forgotten and the Jezebels in your life are louder than ever. But what if this season is not your ending? What if the angel is about to touch you and say, "Arise and eat," because the journey is too great for you to make on what you currently have? What if the preparation you're in right now is not punishment, but provision, the quiet, interior work that makes you capable of receiving what is actually next? And what's coming next in this message will likely surprise you, because it always does. Because once you understand that the barrier is internal, you're ready to face the next layer. And the next layer is this: your relationship with time. Most people believe their season of abundance is coming someday, off in the distance, after the suffering ends, after the lessons are learned, after they've been through enough. And so they keep deferring, keep postponing, keep saying one day, without realizing that one day is a place that never arrives, because you're always placing it one step ahead of where you are. One day is the most dangerous address a person of faith can give their future, because one day lives in the same neighborhood as never. One day is the language of people who believe in the promise but do not believe in their own readiness to receive it. One day keeps you perpetually positioned as someone who is almost there, close enough to hope, too far to actually receive. And you can live an entire lifetime in the almost without ever stepping into the now. You can spend decades being about to break through, about to step into your season, about to receive the harvest without ever actually arriving, because one day, by its very nature, was never designed to come. The kingdom doesn't operate on one day. It operates on now. Provision doesn't live in the future. It was placed on your path before you even knew you needed it. The manna didn't appear after Israel arrived somewhere better. It appeared in the wilderness, in the middle of the lack, in the middle of the confusion, in the exact season they thought nothing could grow. The water didn't flow after the Israelites crossed the desert. It flowed from a rock in the middle of it. The oil didn't multiply for the widow of Zarephath after she got her finances in order. It multiplied when she had nothing left but a handful of flour and the willingness to trust. Provision doesn't wait for ideal conditions. Provision is the response to aligned positioning. And aligned positioning begins inside you, not outside you. And this is the shift. You stop waiting for the right circumstances to show up before you believe. You start believing before the circumstances confirm it. That's not wishful thinking. That's the operating system of the chosen. Faith isn't a feeling, it's a function. It's what activates the territory you haven't yet seen. Hebrews 11 makes this stunningly clear. It was by faith that the elders obtained a good report, not by sight, not by evidence, not by waiting until all the signs aligned perfectly. By faith, by the active, present tense decision to operate as though the unseen reality is more true than the seen one. That is not delusion. That is the divine mechanism by which the invisible becomes visible. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share next is the part that breaks the cycle. Because even after someone understands the inheritance is real and the timing is now, there's still one more invisible wall, and it's the most subtle one. It's the wall of worthiness. Deep down beneath the declarations, beneath the vision boards, beneath the prayers, there is a voice that says, you don't deserve it, that the people who have it must have something you don't, that somehow the abundant life was designed for everyone else, and you are the exception. You've watched others step into blessing and felt a strange mixture of joy for them and grief for yourself. And somewhere in that grief is a question you haven't been willing to ask out loud: why them and not me? And the answer you've been secretly living by, even if you've never spoken it, is because they are worth it, and I am not quite there yet. This voice is not discernment. It is not wisdom. It is not the Spirit of God speaking correction into your life. It is the accumulated wound of every time someone made you feel like too much or not enough. It is the residue of rejection, of disappointment, of prayers that seemed unanswered and doors that seemed permanently closed. It is a survival mechanism that learned to protect you from hope by telling you the hope was never really for you. And it has been masquerading as spiritual realism for so long that you've started to mistake it for truth. This is where you have to get ruthless with your narrative. Not aggressive, ruthless. There is a difference between the story that happened to you and the story you keep choosing to tell about yourself. What happened to you may have been real, painful, and deeply unfair. The betrayal was real. The loss was real. The seasons of genuine hardship that carved valleys into your confidence were real. None of that is being minimized here. But the moment you make that pain the center of your identity, the moment you let it define what you're available for, what you're allowed to receive, what you're permitted to dream, you have handed your future to your past. And your past does not get to make that decision. Only you get to make that decision. And you are making it right now, in this moment, whether you realize it or not. Ruth lost everything: her husband, her homeland, her certainty, and she walked into a foreign land with nothing but loyalty and intention. She didn't arrive worthy by the world's standards. She arrived willing. And willingness, in the economy of heaven, is worth more than credentials. Willingness is the currency that purchases divine attention. Willingness says, I don't have it all figured out, but I am showing up anyway. I don't have a clear path, but I am moving in the direction of trust. I don't feel ready, but I am refusing to let unreadiness be an excuse. Boaz didn't see a woman with nothing. He saw a woman with character, and character attracted covenant, and covenant released abundance that changed not just her life but her entire generational line. The name of a Moabite widow who arrived with empty hands is written into the lineage of Jesus Christ. Let that settle in your spirit. Willingness opened a door that no credential could have purchased. Your willingness is enough to begin. Now, coming up, the one layer most people never touch, the one that hides in plain sight, the one dressed in humility, because this is the part that no one wants to hear. There is a version of false humility that has been masquerading as spiritual maturity in your life. A version that says, I'm not doing this for the money, and uses that as a reason never to be financially free. A version that equates discomfort with holiness and abundance with compromise. A version that watches other people step into increase and secretly feels relieved it isn't happening to you because some part of you is afraid of what would change if it did. And let's name what that fear actually is, because it has layers. There is the fear of becoming someone different, of wealth, altering your relationships, your identity, your sense of self. There is the fear of accountability, of having more and therefore being responsible for more. There is the fear of visibility because increase brings exposure, and exposure feels dangerous to someone who has been hurt in visible spaces. There is the fear of losing the community that was built in shared suffering, the friends, the church family, the relationships forged in the fire, who might not know how to relate to you in the harvest. And beneath all of it, there is a quiet, ancient fear that says, if I receive this, I might lose God. As if the abundance would pull you away from the source rather than deeper into it. As if the God who withheld nothing, not even his own son, would somehow become less present in a season of plenty. And here's the confrontation. That isn't humility. That is fear wearing the clothing of virtue. Real humility says, I am nothing without the source that gave me this gift. False humility says the gift shouldn't go too far because then people might think I've changed. Real humility celebrates increase because it understands that increase in the hands of a faithful steward is increase in the world. It understands that the more a channel can carry, the more people downstream receive. False humility diminishes the gift to avoid the weight of accountability that comes with having more. It keeps itself small, so it never has to answer the question of what it would do with expansion. You were not designed to shrink. You were not designed to minimize. You were designed to be a channel through which something greater than yourself could flow, and channels must be open, not blocked. Think about a river that has been dammed. The dam does not make the water disappear. It just stops the water from reaching what it was meant to water. Every time you refuse the increase, you are not being righteous. You are not honoring God with your modesty. You are building a dam. You are blocking the very pipeline that was meant to water more than just your own life. The ministry that needs funding, the family that needs restoration, the community that needs a demonstration that faithfulness leads somewhere real. And here is the thing, the unexpected thing that reframes everything you've just received. The reason your breakthrough has felt delayed is not because God is withholding. It is not because the enemy is too strong. It is not because you haven't prayed enough or fasted long enough or believed hard enough. The reason is simpler and more confronting than any of that. You have been asking for the harvest while quietly protecting the very seeds you refuse to release. You have been praying for open doors while gripping the handle of the room you know. You have been declaring abundance with your mouth and practicing scarcity with your decisions, your energy, your trust, and your time. This is the gap between declaration and embodiment, between what you say you believe and how you actually live. You say you trust God for provision, but every financial decision you make is driven by fear of lack. You say you believe your season is coming, but you haven't made a single movement that reflects that belief. You say you are ready for more, but when more presents itself in an unexpected form, an uncomfortable invitation, a risky step of obedience, an opportunity that requires you to release the familiar, you hesitate. You analyze, you wait for more confirmation, you talk yourself out of the edge. And another door closes quietly while you are still deciding whether to walk through it. And until that gap closes, until what you declare and what you embody become the same thing, the door stays closed, not as punishment, as alignment, because heaven doesn't just respond to what you say, it responds to what you are. It responds to the frequency of your actual belief, not the performance of it. James 2 does not say faith without works is weak, it says faith without works is dead. The works are not how you earn the blessing. The works are how you demonstrate to your own spirit and to the spiritual realm around you that you actually believe what you are saying. They are the physical language of your inner conviction. And when that language aligns with that conviction, something moves. The invitation right now is not to work harder. It is not to want more desperately. It is to become the version of yourself who has already received what was always yours. To stop performing abundance and start inhabiting it. To stop rehearsing lack and start refusing it. To look at this season not as punishment, not as delay, not as evidence that you were wrong, but as the final preparation before the release. The potter does not put the clay in the fire to destroy it. The fire is the finishing. The fire is the hardening. The fire is what makes the vessel capable of holding what it was shaped to carry. And you have been in the fire long enough. You have been shaped long enough. The finishing is not your destruction. It is your completion. You are not behind. You are being made ready. And readiness, when it finally meets its moment, produces something that no amount of striving ever could. It produces the effortless expansion that the world watches and calls luck, and the spirit recognizes as appointed. It produces the open door that no man can shut. It produces the blessing of the Lord that makes rich and adds no sorrow. The sorrow that came before was not evidence of abandonment. It was evidence of formation, and formation, in the hands of a faithful God, always leads to release. So right now, in this moment, you are being invited to close the gap. Not tomorrow, not after the next season of prayer. Now. Because now is when you are reading these words. Now is when something in your spirit is awake and resonant and leaning in. Now is the moment of alignment available to you. And what you do with this moment, whether you receive it or defer it, whether you let it land or scroll past it, that is a seed. And every seed you plant in faith, in the soil of now, will produce a harvest that your future self will walk into with wonder. Place your hand on your heart and declare this with me. I release the agreement that I must earn what was already given to me. I release the inherited belief that wanting more makes me wrong. I release the fear that abundance will change who I am at my core. I am not defined by what I have lacked. I am defined by what I was designed to carry. I open my hands to receive what my spirit already knows is mine. I step out of the posture of waiting and into the posture of ownership. I am not chasing my blessing. I am walking toward it. And it is walking toward me. I am chosen. I am resourced. I am ready. And my rich is not coming. It is here.